Now let's move on to the explanation of the poem, taking 2 stanzas at a time. No stir in the air, no stir in the sea, the ship was as still as she could be. Her sails from heaven received no motion, her keel was steady in the ocean. Without either sign or sound of their shock, the waves flowed over the Inchcape rock. So little they rose, so little they fell, they did not move the Inchcape bell. So here we see that the ships was completely, it just stood there and there was no motion to it. That means that the air was not blowing, and the sea and the air and everything else was totally calm around it. There was nothing that could give away that something might happen in the near future. Okay, and even the keel of the ship, that was upright. And then they say that the waves are flowing so smoothly and so calmly that they almost did not ring the Inchcape bell, as if they had no power to do so. Okay. The abbot of Aberbrothock had placed that bell on the Inchcape rock. On a buoy in the storm it floated and swung, and over the waves its warning rung. When the rock was hit by the surge's swell, the mariners heard the warning bell, and then they knew the perilous rock and blessed the abbot of Aberbrothock. Now, the poet tells us that the abbot of Aberbrothock, being a very spiritual man, had understood the dangers of the Inchcape rock. The Inchcape rock was actually underneath the sea a bit, and that's why it was not visible to the sailors there. And that's why many a times many ships had been wrecked due to that rock. And to prevent more such happenings from happening, the abbot of Aberbrothock had put it on a buoy and further chained it to the Inchcape rock. So, whenever there was a storm or a very high tide, the bell used to keep ringing. So, when the sailors they sailed past it, they heard the bell and they knew that they had to avoid that rock, and they had to take another way. The sun in the heaven was shining gay, all things were joyful on that day. The seabirds screamed as they wheeled round, and there was joyance in their sound. The buoy of the Inchcape bell was seen, a darker speck on the ocean green. Sir Ralph the rover walked his deck and fixed his eye on the darker speck. So we see that it's a beautiful weather, the sun is shining, and the water is calm and everything is good. And in such a joyous atmosphere, Sir Ralph the rover, he's a pirate, so he's there and he's very happy on his deck, and he's feeling the fresh air on his face, and that is making him happy. But that is also somewhere inside him rekindling the devil inside him. And then he makes up this nasty plan. But how does he make this nasty plan? He first sees that in the green waters, in the midst of it, with the rock, there is a buoy and there is a dark bell there. So he sees that dark speck on the ocean green, the dark bell on the green waters. He felt the cheering power of spring, it made him whistle, it made him sing. His heart was mirthful to excess, but the rover's mirth was wickedness. His eye was on the Inchcape float. Quoth he, my men, put out the boat, and row me to the Inchcape rock, and I'll plague the abbot of Aberbrothock. So he next says that in that beautiful atmosphere, he was whistling, he was singing, he was so happy inside. And this happiness brought out the devil in him. And he made that nasty plan that he was going to remove that bell from where it stood, from where it was placed by the abbot of Aberbrothock. Because right now, whenever any sailor passed that rock, he would bless the abbot of Aberbrothock for saving his ship and for also saving his life. But after that incident, the Ralph did not want anybody else to be able to bless the abbot. The boat is lowered, the boatmen row, and to the Inchcape rock they go. Sir Ralph bent over from the boat, and he cut the bell from the Inchcape float. Down sang the bell with a gurgling sound, the bubbles rose and burst around. Quoth Sir Ralph, the next who comes to the rock won't bless the abbot of Aberbrothock. So we see that the boats are lowered from his ships, and his men take him to the Inchcape rock, and there what he does is, he removes the buoy, and with the buoy removed from the rock, the bell sinks down to the ground of the ocean, and it can no more serve as a precaution, and it can no more be heard by any sailors. So nobody will hear it. That means more ships will be destroyed by the Inchcape rock now, and nobody would be able to bless the abbot of Aberbrothock. Right? Next. Sir Ralph the rover sailed away. He scoured the seas for many a day, and now grown rich with plundered store, he steers his course for Scotland's shore. So thick a haze overspreads the sky, they cannot see the sun on high. The wind hath bloweth a gale all day, at evening it hath died away. Now we see that Sir Ralph removes the bell and then he goes on his way. And he, being a pirate, he plunders many ships and takes their treasures, and with those taken treasures, he builds up a treasury of his own, and he is grown very rich. And after growing so rich, he is heading towards Scotland. But as he heads towards Scotland, at first they say that the wind hath blown a gale all day. I mean, all day the sail had been all good, but suddenly a thick haze spreads around the air like a shroud, right? And they cannot see anything. The atmosphere is very thick and impenetrable. On the deck, the rover takes his stand, so dark it is they see no land. Quoth Sir Ralph, it will be lighter soon, for there is the dawn of the rising moon. Canst hear, said one, the breakers roar? For methinks we should be near the shore. Now where we are I cannot tell, but I wish we could hear the Inchcape bell. So now their ship is not moving since there is very little air, and they cannot see. Okay, they cannot see for long distances because of the thick haze that has already surrounded them, right? So in this situation, what happens is Sir Rolf is trying to be more positive about it, trying to be more optimistic about it, that no, that we won't die, our ship won't sink, and the moon is steadily rising, and soon it will be up high in the sky, and everything else will be visible soon, and we will be able to make out our way. But clearly this does not happen, and further we can say one of his shipmen, he says that he has a feeling, he has an inkling that they might be near the shore, but he is not sure where they are, he cannot tell, and he is hoping that only if they could hear the Inchcape bell, which Sir Ralph himself destroyed, they are hoping if he could hear the Inchcape bell, they would know whether they are near the Inchcape rock and whether it would hit the sea, or whether they are near the land, or what is the situation. So they know nothing right now, and they are totally stuck. They hear no sound, the swell is strong, though the wind hath fallen, they drift along, till the vessel strikes with a shivering shock. O Christ, it is the Inchcape rock. Sir Ralph the rover tore his hair, he cursed himself in his despair. The waves rush in on every side, the ship is sinking beneath the tide. So we see, although the air is not much, but the keel is upright right now, and the ship is slowly moving, right? And then suddenly, where firstly there is absolute silence, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, the ship crashes, and then they realize that they have hit the Inchcape rock, and the inkling was somehow right, and they could not hear the bell because of their own faults. So then the ship hits the Inchcape rock and gets drowned beneath the tide. And while all this happens, Sir Ralph curses himself in disgust, in anger, that he himself brought on this upon himself. It was the revenge that the Inchcape rock was taking on him, the bell was taking on him. But even in his dying fear, one dreadful sound could the rover hear, a sound as if with the Inchcape bell, the devil below was ringing his knell. So even as they drowned, and all of them were about to die at that moment, even at that moment, with all the frustration built up inside him, rover could even then hear, just like the Inchcape bell would ring. In the same manner, it was as if the devil below the earth was ringing the bell, as if mocking him and taking revenge from Sir Ralph.